Welcome to a special video edition of Practical Science. This week, we have an opportunity to discover Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust, an 800-plus acre nonprofit conservancy headquartered in Huntingdon Valley, Pennsylvania. Our guide, Dr. David Robertson, the executive director of the trust, was kind enough to give Patch an exclusive tour of the conservancy. During our expedition through the preservation, Dr. Robertson discussed the overall mission of the trust.
To protect undeveloped open space as natural areas, provide habitat for native animals and plants, provide a nice place for people to use for recreation in a way that doesn't harm the ecosystem. And also, a major part of what we're doing is to do restoration of the habitat here because it's been damaged by invasive plants, by a large deer population, and in some ways by human use over the years.
In addition to deer, the trust is also home to over 20 species of mammals, including bats and even coyotes. Also, a healthy flock of turkeys also call the preserve their home. With the trust's main goal of conservation of over 800 acres, different ecosystems can be found within its boundaries.
A significant portion of the preserve is wooded, and the remainder of the preserve is mostly grasslands that we have created over the last decade or so. So the two major types of ecosystems that visitors will find here are about 160 acres of native grasslands, sort of native prairie, if you will, and large tracts of forest.
We left the visitor center to discuss the rich history of the trust and its future plans and goals. Dr. Robertson took us to one of the oldest structures that is still used to this day in Pennsylvania, the Paper Mill Road Bridge, which was built in 1817. The second oldest bridge still used in Montgomery County. In addition to the Paper Mill Road Bridge, there are also a number of historical sites and buildings throughout the preserve.
We have 3 historic farmhouses, and we have some old spring houses on the property that were probably built in the 1800s. So there are a variety of different historic structures that we have the responsibility for maintaining, and we're trying to maintain them as historic structures. So in other words, we try not to update them and modernize them too much.
Next, it was time to take a look at some of the Trust's ecological restoration projects, which include the control and removal of invasive plant species.
The biggest problem we have here at the Pennypack Preserve is with a plant called porcelainberry, which is the vine that is climbing up on these trees. Porcelainberry is related to grapes and was brought over probably as an ornamental plant. In other words, as a garden plant. It escaped from the gardens, and then because it has no native predators here, or natural predators, or insects that eat it, it just goes crazy. Or diseases, right, exactly.
This may seem like an age-old task, but Dr. Robertson and his team have come up with a novel approach.
So what we're trying to do, if we can go over this way and look here, we're trying to create shade. And this is an example of where we're trying to create shade. We are replanting large areas with native trees. And underneath them, there's very little material growing. So it does work. You just have to get the plants to the point where you create shade.
Another one of the Trust's ecological restoration missions is the control of its large deer population.
If we wanted natural regeneration of the forest, that is, if we wanted the forest to come back naturally without having to plant trees and having to protect them in tree shelters, we think that there ought to be about, 8 to 10 deer on this property. 8 to 10 deer, seriously, versus 225. Anything above 8 to 10 is still too large to allow the forest to regenerate naturally. They will eat anything that starts to grow.
In addition to the conservation effort, the Trust is also involved in educational programs with Bernathen College and School District, Abington Friends School, and Upper Moreland School District. If you are interested in getting involved, the Trust also offers activities like bird watching, night walks, a wild edibles tour, and even firefly tours. The Trust is supported by over 1,200 members, but is always looking for more. Also, if you're interested in volunteering, there are many opportunities to do so, including cleaning the Pennypack Creek, which is the heart of the Trust.
Dr. Robertson, I'd like to thank you for bringing us on this amazing tour of this gem.
You're welcome. That's great, Phil. I like bringing people out here, especially when they're not familiar with the property. Then they get really excited. Yeah. So it's great.
I'm excited. And you should be too. This is Phil Frieda signing off. Video edition of Practical Science. Hope to see you soon. And as always, think about it.